What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lifestyle Blueprints, episode number 7, with a special guest and a good friend. His name's Gabe Ciufo. In this episode, we will be speaking about his experience previously in the mayor's office, the mayor of Toronto, John Tory, and his role as a communications advisor for John Tory. And we also speak about his current role right now with Ryerson University as a government relations officer. So there's a lot to be heard on this podcast, and we also speak about life. And honestly, I learned lots from this guy. He's a good dude, and hope you guys take away something from this conversation as well. Hope you guys are all taking care during these uncertain times, and hope you guys sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Thank you again for all your love and all your support. Enjoy. All right, guys, welcome back to Lifestyle Blueprints podcast with a good friend, a mutual friend of mine, with another guest who was on here earlier this year, or I guess last year, Jonathan Plender. He's a law student, but I want to give this a guest the right to introduce himself because I don't want to chop it up his name as well as his role. But I'm super excited to start this conversation, and I hope you guys truly enjoy this.
Thank you for having me, Jordy. My name is Gabe Ciufo. Right now I'm working at Ryerson University in the government relations team there. And I'm really excited to be here. I heard the episode that you recorded with Jonathan. I was fortunate enough to have lived with him over the last couple months in the summer, but he's been a good friend of mine for many years now. So I think we first met in the first grade and we're still close now. So that's how we've got this connection here. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so it's all about friendships and like connections and networking for sure. Because I wouldn't be talking to Gabe at all if it wasn't for Johnny. So shout out to Johnny, or I guess Jonathan. But thank you for the introduction. I'm super excited to get this talk started with you. So let's start with kind of education and university. So what did you do your undergrad in?
So my undergrad situation is a little bit interesting because I'm still in school right now working to complete my undergrad. I started back in 2015 at Ryerson in their media production program there. It's sort of under the umbrella of RTA, which is radio and television arts. It's a bit of an old program, but they've kind of broken it down into 3 different streams. There's media production, new media, and then sports media. So I went down the media production path and had originally gone into the program hoping to do stuff in front of the camera, like being a broadcaster. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a sports broadcaster. I don't know if you ever watched Sports Center, but do you remember Jay and Dan?
Yeah, Jay. Yeah, and yeah, Dan O'Toole and Jay on, right?
Yeah. Those are the
Yeah,
two guys. So Jay, I believe, went to RTA, and I remember looking into that in like the 7th grade, and then that was sort of where I found out about the program, and that was kind of always where my eyes were set as far as going to university. And so at high school, I went to Ryerson, did my first year there, and then in my second year, I sort of started working part-time a little bit, and then in my third year, I kind of stopped halfway through the semester, or halfway through the year rather, and started working full time. And I've kind of been doing school part time ever since, sort of a class a semester. So my undergrad's definitely dragged on a little bit longer than I would have hoped, but one step at a
yeah.
time, right?
Yeah, one step at a time, and we'll for sure talk about those part-time experiences as well as those full-time experiences that you're taking on right now. At the same time as you finishing school up, so that's awesome, man. So, kind of talk about those part-time experiences that you took on during undergrad, or like I guess the earlier days of undergrad. So, what types of jobs were you doing?
So, actually, going into my first year of university, I was working at an executive search firm. So it's sort of like a headhunting firm, but for executive roles within businesses. And
Okay.
so, I was just an intern there. Jonathan actually worked there at one point too.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And so I worked there with a friend, Justin, and we sort of were just doing like data management work, working through like spreadsheets and stuff like that. But that was something that I had going part-time throughout first year. And then in the summer after first year, I actually got an internship at the mayor's office with the city of Toronto. So that was under Mayor John Tory, who's still our mayor now. And that was originally to do some social media work for him over the summer. And I worked throughout June, July, and August. And then sort of went back to my second year of university, not knowing if that would ever be an opportunity, if that was just sort of a one-off. And
Yeah.
later into the next year, I got a call asking if I'd come back for the next summer. So summer after second year, I went back, doing some similar work, but I think that they started to put me more on some of the public events because the mayor kept quite a busy schedule. So they had me running around a little bit with him there, and one thing led to another, and it kind of spiraled into something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, for real. And I remember you were kind of talking to me about that during the summer, about you working
Mm-hmm.
for John Tory. So can you tell me more about that and what that job, um, I guess, what were your responsibilities with that job, working with John Tory, our mayor in Toronto?
I will say it was because it was something that I was doing throughout my undergrad. I'd say
Okay.
that it's probably one of the biggest and best learning experiences of my life. I kind of treated it as if it was a type of education for me. I mean, there's only so many opportunities for you to kind of be dropped in a professional setting. So it was kind
Yeah.
of, thrown in the deep end, and you kind of learn how to swim that way. But the roles and responsibilities kind of varied over the years. I think that I'm fortunate that they trusted me enough to give me different types of work over the years. I know that when I first started there, it was kind of just managing his social media. I think that as mayor, you have a responsibility to kind of let the people know what you're up to, and he, this is not me just being biased. He definitely worked very hard and was out and about making announcements, going to like community cultural events and stuff like that. And so I was fortunate to also have the opportunity to tag along with him at some of those, and part of that was doing outreach work within the office to, whether it was different event organizers or community leaders to kind of plan his visit, but also see what they were hoping to get out of the relationship with him. And so I did a little bit of that work. Some of that involved media relations, just because the media are always looking to see what the mayor is up to, and I think that's kind of their responsibility. But when you have like 5-6 different news cameras coming after him at an event, it's part of the job was kind of managing their expectation, but also seeing what the mayor was comfortable with as far as talking to them on that day or at an announcement. And some of the other work was more comms related. I think that came further down the road. It started with just doing the Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and stuff like that. And then, as I spent a little bit more time there, they trusted me to do some stuff like writing scripts for videos, and especially during the early stages of the pandemic, he would
Yeah.
normally be like running around the city doing different events. But since those events kind of disappeared and translated virtually, his presence was felt a lot more differently. And so I think that he kind of just started to record more videos, and there's responsibility on us to kind of put together some notes for him to be well prepared for stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So basically, you were his bodyguard as well as his media manager, posting all these posts, right? So basically, all
It's
these John. So basically, all these John Tory posts in the last year were you.
well, not so much anymore, but if you look far back enough, I'm sure that there were probably some spelling mistakes or stuff like that. So definitely not wasn't perfect. But
Sure.
the bodyguard part is funny because when I was on the road with him, I would
Yeah.
get that a lot because you're kind of standing around there, keeping an eye on him,
You're a big
sometimes
guy.
pointing him out to people. I'm not a tall guy, but
You're a big
yeah,
guy.
I'd get that. I'd
You
get
work
that from
out.
time to time. Yeah, I try to. And people would
Yeah.
come up to me and be like, "Are you security?" I was like, "I'm flattered that you think that I would be," but
Oh, I'm dead.
yeah.
That's awesome, man. So, with that being said, are you still working for? I guess you're not working for John Tory anymore, but those experiences with the mayor's office, did they help translate on like into your next job? And did it help you? I guess. Yeah, basically that's what I'm asking.
Definitely. And so I, in September, started a new role at Ryerson University, of all places, working in their government relations team, which is
Of,
sort of,
of all places, he
uh,
says.
I say of all places, just because, you know, it's pretty crazy that my next employer was the same institution where I had yet to finish my undergrad.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of funny that I came on having yet to finish my undergrad, but I think that was part of the draw for me, was getting to go back to school while also, having an opportunity to try something different and do work outside of what I was used to. And so, yeah, I worked at the mayor's office for 5 years, and then felt like it was time to do something different. And if ever there's a time to try something new, I feel like it's in the middle of a global pandemic. So made the
Facts,
switch in
facts.
September. Yeah.
All right, true. So in September, you took on a new opportunity. So can you tell me more about that?
So, like I said, I work out of the government relations team in Ryerson, and part of our responsibility is to be in constant communications with the different levels of government. So, we work with different ministers within the federal government, the provincial government, and a lot of work with the city. And a part of that is just because a lot of the money that comes into Ryerson for different programs and initiatives, of which I will say there are many, and I think that some people don't even realize how much is going on within the university. But a lot of that money comes from different levels of government, so they sort of help support the work that we do, and it's our responsibility that we're sort of creating that bridge between those initiatives within Ryerson or some of those goals that we have, and I guess the money that the government has, but also the support that they can lend to us. So.
That's fantastic. So I was just curious too about your previous job,
Mm-hmm.
employment under the mayor's office. I should have asked you earlier, but how was it working with John and John Tory? I was always kind of curious about his personality and like, yeah.
Like I said, it was definitely the biggest learning experience in my life, and I say that for many different reasons. Part of it was I started so young when I was there. Like the first summer that I spent there, I was 18, and here I am, I'm 23. So to have like grown up in that space and in that environment, I think that it taught me a lot about being a professional, but I think it also taught me a lot about working under pressure, being punctual, managing, my own schedule, but also part of that responsibility was managing his public facing schedule.
Yeah.
Um,
Super
but
important.
super, super important. And like I said, and I'm not just saying this, he did work very, very hard. So it kept me very busy. But it also allowed me to have the opportunity to go around the city, which I think I'm super thankful for. I grew up in Richmond Hill. I live down in Toronto right now, but before moving down here, you can only see so much of the city, and there's only so
Yeah.
many different parts that you'd go to. And with the way that the mayor sort of worked around his schedule, he wanted to be in all different parts of the city throughout the week just to make sure that he, knew what was going on or had opportunities to connect with different communities. And so I found myself in Scarborough, Etobicoke, North York, like 5 different times throughout the week.
True.
And I think you end up in these different places and sometimes different events where you never think that you would be in that room. So, or even in that place. And so that exposure is definitely something that I'm thankful for and took a lot from.
That's awesome. So, um, kind of building off of that, did you
Mm-hmm.
ever get to meet Doug Ford, our premier, or did you ever work with him at all, or kind of have any relations with him?
I wouldn't say that like I personally spoke with him. I know that the mayor had quite a responsibility to work with him and I guess all different levels of government. When I first started in the mayor's office, it was Kathleen Wynne that was our premier, and
Oh,
so
okay, yeah,
we worked with the Liberal provincial government when they were in power, and then when Doug Ford was elected premier, there was a little bit of a shift. But yeah, he's definitely worked closely with the premier over the years, because if there's one thing that I've learned from working in government is that nothing really happens alone. And I say that in the sense that, if there's a city project that the mayor is hoping to move forward, it doesn't happen if it's just the mayor standing alone saying that the city's going to build it. They need partners in the other levels of government, whether that's the province, whether that's the federal government. And so I think that there's a responsibility on the mayor, but there's also a responsibility on the premier to be willing to come to the table and kind of work together just to make sure that those, whatever they are, different initiatives are able to be move forward, because, without everyone kind of coming to the same table, that kind of work doesn't get done. And that's definitely the biggest thing that I learned.
facts for sure. Because even just kind of observing how the provincial government and even the federal government and how are they communicating in terms of dealing with the pandemic, it doesn't seem like both sides are kind of aligned with what they want to do with the pandemic, honestly, because then you get some days on a presser from Doug Ford, he's kind of like calling out Trudeau. So it's just like, where are we right now in terms of this? like management of the COVID pandemic. You know what I mean? So it is true. Like at the government level, it's like all people come to the table and being able to speak their mind, but also respect each other's opinions and also coming to like a conclusion of what to do. So that's how I feel about the pandemic right now, even like with kind of like the announcements being made. I still don't think that's enough for the COVID pandemic, but I just wanted to say that because of what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying in terms of people coming to a table, even with the indifferences and like their political party or whatever they like face, or like, I guess the values that they believe in. Right. So that's where I stand, I guess, basically. And like getting from what you're saying.
I think it's really interesting, because this is such uncharted territory. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. Yeah.
I don't think that any public representative would have thought that this is what they'd be dealing with in, throughout 2020, but even
Yeah.
2021. So I will say, with the restrictions that were added this week, being even harder on businesses and people and their mental health, it's obviously tough, but I do give credit to, I'd say, all the different levels of government for kind of rolling with the punches, because
Yeah.
it's no easy task, and we can say that we've planned and worked through it as much as possible, but I can only imagine being in their seats. So
Yeah.
it's a tough situation.
No,
It's
for
I feel
sure.
like it's hard to please everybody.
No, for sure. And
Yeah.
then you got people like me, but then you got people like you. So you got positive outlook and good support, and you got people like me who are just like roasting the government.
You know what?
But
It's tough. It's tough because I
no,
feel
totally
like
understandable. Totally understandable, honestly.
everybody's got to kind of find their own way to work through this pandemic. And, I'm not a business owner, and I can't imagine how some of them are feeling. I know that,
Yeah.
like, there was this Korean restaurant on Spadina that I would go to with my friends, throughout the week, maybe twice a week. And then you walk by it in the middle of the summer and see that it's closed down. So to say that people aren't impacted, I'm sure that everyone's feeling it in their own ways. So
No, for sure.
even just
It's
like relationships with friends and stuff like that, that's
yeah.
hard to keep that going.
No, for sure. This pandemic has been hard on all of us. So I hope everyone who's listening to this stays safe and just comply to what the government's putting out right now, because the only way we're going to save lives are, I guess, we're we can't be selfish. We can't be selfish at all, and we have to obey the laws and like do whatever it takes during this, whatever, like however long this time period is. But it's gonna pay off in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of, I guess, going off of your last job that you're in right now, your current job, how do you find yourself balancing your job, your full-time job right now, and part-time studies?
So I will say that the shift to working from home has helped me a lot with that. Um, I was working from home a little bit throughout the early days of the pandemic when I was still at the mayor's office, but starting my new role at Ryerson, excuse me, I was in person for my first week there, but outside of those 2 early weeks in September, I've been fully working from home. Um, and I think that's a good thing and a bad thing. I do wish that I would have had an opportunity to meet some of my colleagues, and I hope that somewhere in the near future I'll have that chance. But I just think that the whole idea of working from home bodes well for work-life balance. And so I found that at least in the evenings, you're not commuting to and from work. Oftentimes, you have your evenings to yourself. And so I found that I've been able to use that time to work through some courses. I say through some courses, but this semester, or the first semester that I was with Ryerson, I only took one class to kind of feel things out. But moving into this winter semester, I'm taking two, just because I felt like with the time that I have outside of the work hours, I feel like I can kind of manage those two. Whereas in my last job, I just felt like it was a little bit too tight, or just an inconsistent schedule. So it was hard for me to really like pencil in that time. Part of that was just my mindset too. But me kind of just being at Ryerson especially helped me stay focused on that. But last semester, if that was any sort of sample, it's been great. And I hope that throughout the winter semester, it's just as good. So
I hope so too, man. And I hope you keep just continuing to work hard.
thank you.
So, in terms of kind of you talking about you managing school as well as your job, in the summer before you started in September, How many hours would you say you worked with the mayor's office, like weekly average?
It's tough. If like a normal working week is like 37 to 40 hours, I feel like
Yeah,
it was definitely outside of that, like maybe 60 hours depending on the week. And I think part of that is, again, like I said, he works really hard. So he's up early in the morning and he's out at events late at night. And so, um, with the role that I had, part of that was being there with him or planning around his schedule. And so they were long weeks, but again, super rewarding, and I don't regret the experience. But that sort of lifestyle and that pace, I think, is only something that you can keep up with for so long before. Um,
temporary.
yeah, it's temporary, and I think that he'd be the first person to say that. That those types of jobs, they're great learning experiences, they're a good stepping stone, but they're not the type of jobs that you can do forever. And it's not at any fault of the office or the fault of your own. It's just that's it's a big
It's
price to pay.
nature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's nature
nature.
of the
It's
job.
nature, and part of that
And
is just looking for growth too, right?
yeah, for sure. And the valuable experience that you gain from it. So
Hmm.
with this job now, you said that last semester went well with that one course load and then your full-time job. How many hours are you working now in your new role?
So it's more of a 9 to 5 job, I'd say,
Okay.
um, and I think part of that would be different if I was in the office a little bit more. Um, but like that whole event proponent of being at events, in Scarborough from 7 to 9 p.m. in the evening, that doesn't happen here right now, and I feel like the pandemic has a big impact on that too.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but a good example is like the university is closed, right? The campus, at least for right now, is going to be closed until April, and so I think that limits some of that outside activity that I would have been doing, and even just meeting with people. You do it from your computer versus going to Queens Park, going to City Hall, or something like that.
True. And I was just going to ask you, what impacts or implications has COVID-19 had on has on your work so far, I guess, since you started in September?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is onboarding virtually. I know I'm not alone in having lived through that experience, but I think it's definitely unique. Not that I'd say I'm the type of personality that um, does its best in like the in-person workplace. I think that part of that is just getting to build relationships with your colleagues and your coworkers. I was fortunate to have worked with some great people in the mayor's office, and outside of being like working colleagues, we were friends. And so I think that it's harder to do that over like a Zoom or a virtual meeting, just because if you're sitting down with them virtually, more likely than not, it's to get to work on something. So you can have that little intro chit chat.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you, new face. How are you doing? Where are you from? And all of that. But it's harder to kind of get a little bit more personal. And I
Yeah.
think that's important in building strong relationships. And I'd say that's been the biggest hurdle to get over. Like we had a holiday party in November, and
Virtual
it
holiday
was virtual.
party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I should specify, because that's sketchy
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
days. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You'd have, sorry to interrupt, but you'd have people freaking on you.
Yeah, we did a virtual holiday party, and I think the woman who organized it had this quiz master service sort of come in and run the virtual holiday party, which I was actually happy about, because I
Okay.
felt like if we didn't have sort of this game or activity to do during this big Zoom call with like 30 people, it's like 30 different heads in a room, and you're waiting for somebody to speak.
Yeah.
It's so different from being in a room with people, right? Like if
Yeah.
that was an in-person event, you can pick a handful of people who are talking and go chat with them and kind of get to know them that way. But it's hard to just be that one voice to speak up, and it kind of
Yeah.
focuses on you in the middle of a Zoom call. So
Yeah.
that's been something to get used to. But like I said, I hope that when things settle as far as the pandemic is concerned, that I'll have a chance to meet a lot more of these people in person and get to know them a little bit better.
For real. And hopefully the vaccine kind of rolls out and
Hmm.
it becomes successful, I guess, in terms of efficacy and there's not that many side effects. But I just want to add on to you speaking about Zoom calls. Man, I feel that so hard. when I was working from home in the summer. It's just so weird, kind of like interacting just online. It's just like hey, how are you? And then just get down to business. It's like, this is what we're going to do today. This is what we're going to be
Hmm.
about. And then we had a virtual party as well.
Yeah.
And it was just like for Christmas, and it was like, I don't know, 20 people, but you can't like go about and just like speak to someone else who you want to speak to, because then you hear that one person who's speaking about like, oh, this is what I'm baking today. I'm like, cool. Like, okay, I'm going to continue working during this virtual party. Like, it's cool to hear like these voices, but at the same time, like, I don't want you to be like in terms of like being in a room, so you can just like, yo, hey boys, like let's go chat, so we don't have to hear
Yeah.
the other people, because we're not interested in those kind of things. So I feel
It's
like
hard to
that's
jump in. It's
yeah,
definitely hard to
it's just
jump
like, yo, yeah, this is what I'm baking too, or just like, yo, I'm not like, I hate baking. Like, that's the thing. Like,
in.
that's how I feel in terms of like Zoom. Like, it's been really great in terms of work meetings and like keeping people connected for my job, your job, anyone's job, and Teams too, Microsoft Teams or Slack, any of that stuff. But
Hmm.
the social aspect of it for sure has been hindered for me as well, or anyone else working from home.
What I'm curious about is what workplaces will look like when this is all said and done. You know,
Yeah,
now that I feel like different organizations and even just like smaller teams have seen that they're able to have these people work remotely and still do a good
yeah.
job with it. I think that might change how offices even just look or are set up when we do eventually go back to work in person. So I'm curious to see what that will be like. Like, I've never stepped foot in my office outside of when I
Damn.
was interviewing for the job. So that'll be a big day.
For real though, for real. To be honest with you and transparent, I honestly don't think that's going to be coming for a long time. But
Yeah.
like that kind of intrigues me too, because if if they find out, oh damn, like in terms of meeting deadlines and that kind of stuff, and they can do it from home, why not just leave them at home, right? But
Mhm.
there's obviously other confounding variables where some people may not even be working from home and then like not using those hours to actually be productive, right? So there's so many different factors that these companies will look at for sure.
What I also, sorry to cut you off. What I also think
Yeah, no
about
problem.
is like these types of Zoom meetings, like if, let's say someone even is working 20 minutes on foot at an office 20 minutes away in the city, and you have a meeting scheduled with them. What's to stop them from just saying, hey, you know what, why don't we save each of us the 20-minute walk there and the 20-minute
Yeah.
walk back of our day and just hop on Zoom? We're used to it anyways. I'll FaceTime you from my desk or my office, or if they're still working from home, and just do it that way. So I feel like I would lean towards thinking that might be something that people use a lot more in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, I think so too, based on kind of like all of us have experienced it based on our work titles and our jobs, because that would save us the commute, like you said, because it's more efficient for our time. We're not wasting that. No, it's not a waste of time to go for a walk, but again,
Hmm.
within a work day too, with like a 9 to 5 job, like you got a lot of tasks to do and like
Yeah.
deadlines to meet. So with that Zoom call, definitely will I don't know, be more efficient. But this leads me to a question about your job at the mayor's office. I know I've been asking so many questions about that, but maybe even with your current role right now with government relations. So you went to Ryerson for kind of like media, that kind of program. How was that transition to kind of like politics or kind of like regulations and law? Because that's kind of what you were dealing with John Tory, the government, right? So how did
Hmm.
you find that transition?
So I will say that at least in my time in the mayor's office, I wasn't working as heavily on the policy side of
Okay.
things. Definitely more on the public facing side, which was like, I guess, more oriented towards communications. So I think that even when I was doing the social media work there was some stuff that I had learned, whether it was using like Photoshop, Illustrator, stuff like that, that translated well to the type of work that I was doing. But outside of that, like I said earlier, there were a lot of media that would follow the mayor to different events, and so kind of getting to be on the opposite end of that, and being able to build relationships with them, I felt like I kind of had a glimpse of their world and their side of work, having been in a media production program. So it made it a little bit easier for me to be able to work with them. It's funny, there are different reporters that I had met over the years, who were former graduates from Ryerson's RTA program. So
Yeah.
it's a perfect example of that kind of crossing
That's
over into the
networking. That's networking.
yeah. And so that was cool to see. But I think that for me, at least, like working in politics was never something that I ever thought that I would end up doing. It was kind of just me having that first internship, and again, originally just being there for social media, having really no experience working in a political office before that. You do get thrown into the deep end, and I think that the pace of the office and just the pace of that type of environment, it's exciting, it's addicting, and it keeps you going. And so I think that kind of grew into a bigger love for it. So
True, true.
yeah.
I was always curious because I would know nothing if I was like thrown into your role and kind of like doing that kind of stuff because yeah, I don't know anything about it. I pretend, but I don't know.
It's that age old saying of fake it till you make it, you know? And somewhere along the line when you're faking it early on, you learn a thing or two, and then by the end of it you get it, you know? So I think that I'd say that's kind of how I felt about the whole process.
Sure. So with you looking to complete your undergrad and you're thriving right now with school as well as full-time work employment. So where do you see yourself, I guess, within the near future? Like, what do you want to achieve short term? So, okay, yeah, let's start with short term. What do you want to achieve short term?
I'd say short term, finish my undergrad. It is long overdue, and I have my grandparents and my parents asking me all the time, you know, how long? When is it? When is it? Like, how are you doing? Are you almost done? How many more classes left? And again, like me slowing down the pace of my undergrad was definitely my own call. I don't regret it, but that's certainly something that I want to check off my list in 2021. I was actually having a conversation with one of my roommates near the end of last year, just about what I was looking forward to in the new year, and I said that finishing school, which has been on my, it was on my list in 2022, in 2020 as well, and I didn't get it
Okay.
checked off. So here's hoping that I finish in 2021. So that's like a near future near future goal, I guess, if I could point towards one.
True. And then moving on to long term, do you have any aspirations to pursue something bigger? Like, do you have any roles that you want to target long term?
I hope this isn't a cop out answer, but um, like I said, I've sort of joined Ryerson at a weird time, being onboarded virtually with the university closed to students. So not to say that I haven't got a lot out of it just yet, but I know that there's a lot more that I still have left to experience. And so I hope that, you know, in the couple of years or in the time that I am here, I can kind of grow a little bit more, learn a thing or two, which I have already. But I think that as, you know, hopefully the university opens up over the next, I hope year, you know, I hope year, but
Yeah.
fingers crossed for that, that I can grow in that way. And then maybe at that point, look towards something else. But I'm definitely focused on this for now, just to see how it shapes up, because again, it's full in one way, but I know that it's like a glass half empty at the same time, just because the students aren't there. The university is less active in that way. And so, I'm excited to see what it ends up being like in full.
Real. And you got to make the most of your opportunities. And you just
Mm-hmm.
started to with the pandemic. So there's still time to grow in your role and you're going to experience a lot of things for sure. So I guess there's no rush. I just wanted to know if you had bigger aspirations to pursue, like, I don't know, something else. But with your role right now, what's your
Mm-hmm.
favorite, like, what's your most favorite thing about it?
Um, I work very closely with my boss, who actually was an old colleague of mine, in the mayor's office, and
That's sick.
he was part of the reason that I came over. Um,
Damn.
and so it's been great to kind of work with a familiar face over the last couple months. Um, and get to know, you know, a role outside of what I was doing before. I think that a lot of the responsibilities that I'm doing now are different from what I had been doing in the mayor's office. And I think that just by challenging yourself to do something different, you get a lot out of that. And I feel like with every new, problem or opportunity that's presented here, it's an opportunity to grow too. So I'm super thankful for that.
That's awesome. And do you have anything you dislike about the job? I guess you don't have to answer this because of your employer, but
Like I said, and it's not their fault. I think that if I had to
COVID.
change, if I had to change anything, it's just COVID. Like I'd love to get to meet people and know who I'm talking to on the other side of the email, outside of doing a Zoom call or something like that, but actually get to know them. And I think that one of those things about working in person is that you get to chit chat. Like everybody's busy, but nobody's ever too busy to just shoot the shit a little bit and get to know what people are up to, what they're doing. Tonight, what are you having for dinner? Oh, that lunch looks great. Did you make that? Oh, you're good at cooking. That kind of stuff. But I feel like that kind of stuff does help build a strong relationship. And
Yeah, what do you like? Red wine or white wine? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, big capso guy. Yeah.
yeah. Even like talking about sports or about something that happened during that day.
Go
Um,
Lakers.
yeah, well, go Lakers. I don't know about go Lakers, but yeah.
True.
um,
Sorry to interrupt you, but we'll talk about the NBA after. But
yeah.
so Gabe, so growing up, did you have any role models that you looked up to that kind of help, I guess, reflect or impact your career so far?
I think like to point to one is very hard, because I think that if you would have asked me in elementary school, I would have said Roberto Luongo, who is a goalie for the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh
So I feel like
man.
it changes at different points. And if you asked me at one point throughout high school, I might have said Aaron Paul or Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, because I was a huge fan
Okay.
of that.
Okay.
I think that what I've learned is that you can kind of find a role model in many different people, and whether that's like colleagues or even just friends. I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot to learn from any different person, because like their lived experience is different than yours, and they
Yeah.
might know a little something about something that you have no experience in whatsoever. Like you work in the healthcare world, right? That
Yeah.
is an area that I've never touched outside of like being in the healthcare with or being in a hospital with a broken pinky or something like that. And so I think that to have just one is tough, and I don't think that I do off the top of my head, but I could say I have hundreds of different role models in the different people that I meet and get to work with, because there's a lot to soak up.
And that was a great answer
I like
because
that answer. I like that
yo
answer only because I wasn't
yo
expecting the question, and that I kind of went there, but the truth is I can't think of just one person, and so I can think of many different people that I've learned stuff from, and so that's my answer, and I'm sticking with it.
I love it. And this podcast is for real. It's real. It's authentic. Like literally, I
Yeah.
just asked that like off the top of my head, and you just gave that great answer. And I totally relate to that. Honestly, and, like I had role models. Obviously, my parents for hard work, and like I
Hmm.
wanted to succeed, something bigger than them. But every day you meet someone new, you learn so many new things about them, the experiences that they lived through. Like you said, like you learn something new every single day. Like I'm learning things about you and every other
Yeah.
guest who I've had on so far. I've loved listening to like what they have had to say and like listen to like how they have kind of achieved like the success they had. So honestly, I love this platform that I'm having on right now, and especially having you on too. Every day is like a learning experience, and I want listeners to know as well. Sure, you can look up to like celebrities and that like those people, but at the end of the day, like let's be realistic here, because there's gonna be amazing individuals who are also super inspirational around you as well.
Sitting right next to you. Yeah. Or
Sitting right,
across
yeah, I was gonna
in front of
say,
you,
yeah,
across
yeah,
a
right
Zoom
there.
meeting. It's funny that you say family too, because I should have said my parents right off the top, right? But there's another example of like for me, when I moved out of my parents' house in third year, I think that like those first couple months of living on my own, you really realize like what your parents go through to support you,
Yeah,
that you don't even think twice about. Like shopping, it's something as simple as like shopping for yourself or doing laundry. When you're
yeah,
doing it by yourself, and then I think like I come from a pretty big family. I have three brothers, so we're a family of six with my two parents. And to think that like my mom cooked for all six of us every night, packed lunch, sent us off, drove us to hockey, soccer, play rehearsal, whatever it was in the evening. Like where do you find like time to live your own life as an adult? And so I think that you can learn something from that too, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
for sure.
Anyways,
No, I
had to
love
throw in
no,
the parents there because I think that
you
it's it's
no,
it's
dude. Like,
important too.
yeah,
You don't
like
even
I love
realize what you're learning from them when you are.
you don't, and I never kind of realized it until like you said, you're living independently.
Hmm.
You're not relying on them anymore. Even like every day, I kind of like dinner. I'm just like, oh, what am I gonna make tonight? And then I'm
Yeah,
kind of like think about it because at home, my mom would just like make dinner or like do my laundry or
something
do
would be there. It's done
yeah, like
already.
something
Yeah.
always there. And like even when I was grocery shopping today, they all have it in their head, kind of like thinking about what they want to get. And then I'm there kind of just like, okay, what do I want to eat? Do I want pizza pops? Do I want wine? Do I want fries? And then it's just like a whole it's just I just down spiral in terms of like what to do. But they're so experienced, and I feel like a lot of listeners can also look up to their parents, regardless of what their title is. They have a lot
Hmm.
of experiences and they have a lot of lessons probably to tell you as well.
Yeah. I
But yeah,
I feel like some of the biggest things that I've learned from my parents and even from like other coworkers, it's not even like professionally related. It's just life related,
yes, dude,
you know?
facts.
But that's so important to like making you into the person you are in other settings too.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah, for sure.
big one.
And so with your job experiences, Gabe,
Hmm.
just by the way, I love that conversation that we just had right now.
Me too.
That was awesome, bro. Go family for sure. Shout out to our families. But so with your previous job experiences, would you say, and actually with education as well, do you think you learn more on the job working as a professional, or do you learn more just being a student? I want to
I
like I want to get your take on it.
I absolutely do not want to undervalue the value of an education and
Yeah,
of
yeah,
going to school because here I am still going to school.
yeah.
Um, but I can say confidently that my work experience was easily the biggest learning experience of my life. And I think the biggest part of that is like you go to school to find work, right? And not to say that like my one working experience, which happened to last over the course of a couple of years, is all I should ever know. I think you should constantly be trying to learn in different ways. But yeah, it was definitely the realist type of learning experience because the stakes are higher, right? Like you're working, for many different reasons, but the biggest one is probably a paycheck. And I think that, you have this responsibility on you to do this job because you're getting paid for it. Going to
Yeah,
school, you're paying for the school.
yeah,
And if you don't want to do an assignment, you don't want to go to a lecture, you kind of have that luxury of not having to do it. Not that you
yes,
shouldn't, but you have that luxury. And I feel like when the stakes are higher, you kind of try a little bit harder, you try a lot harder, and I think that by putting in that effort you get a lot out of it. But also just like lived experience, different people you get to meet, different experiences you get to have, um, different responsibilities that are given to you. You might sample that in a project in a school class, but a lot of the times it's like made up stuff, right? Like you're
yeah.
writing a report on whatever it might be, or an essay on something, and like how often will that translate into something tangible in the workplace outside of like professional
Facts.
education. So
Facts. For sure. And I can totally relate to this as well because I did my undergrad at Queens,
mhm.
did like, I guess, human physiology, human anatomy, and that kind of stuff. But when I went to clinical research, it's like a whole new field. Basically, it's all medicine. Like I was doing cardiac surgery, anesthesiology, but I learned the most basically just doing the job, learning from others, learning from nurses, learning from doctors. I don't undervalue education as well, but at the same time, I feel like I learned the most um, on the job, on like
Like
based on
doing
like
it.
my doing it and like based on my
Yeah.
experiences so far. And I like how you said too, like with a full-time job, you're responsible for doing all those things. Like there's no luxury in terms of like, oh, I'm not going to go to 8:30 class today.
Yeah.
Like you actually have to show up, do your thing, get your shit done, go home, and then repeat it. That's life as an adult. And there's always obviously going to be more room to grow, but you have to fulfill those responsibilities before you actually take on the next opportunity or the next promotion. Because in school, we have that luxury to kind of just like, screw off and like not do those kind of things.
I think that what we were saying earlier about fake it till you make it, it's
Yeah.
it's it's like a joke saying, but I think that it holds a lot of weight. Like nobody comes into a job knowing exactly what they're going to do and how to do everything properly. There's training for a reason, because they're trying to teach you how to do it. And like that whole idea of them teaching how to do something means that you're learning something at the same time. And so I feel like that's where a lot of the value and learning experience comes from work. So
For real. So just for the listeners, I literally just want to say, and I think Gabe relates to this too, or I guess he backs this, but don't undervalue education. Obviously, go get your bachelor's, your master's, your PhD, whatever. But I
college
think you learn
degree, even I
college
think that
degree,
there's
even like,
there's value in those
but
too.
yeah, but just work super hard, like at any job. It's gonna be rewarding at the end because people are gonna recognize you, and you're gonna learn the most on your job. But I'm not telling you to undervalue education, but just know when you do become like an adult, even a young adult like ourselves, just work your ass off, because there's gonna be promotions. It's gonna be rewarding, and you're gonna have to fulfill all those responsibilities for real.
I think it comes down to work, like work
Yeah,
ethic at the end of the day.
work ethic for sure.
I know of people who, never finish school, but they're working and they're earning a living because of it. And if you work really hard, you can support yourself, and better than just supporting yourself, you can like really succeed. I think it's just about putting in the time, putting in the energy, putting in the effort. And I feel like that pays off. And if you do it well, it's recognized too within the workplace, within wherever you are. And yeah, I think that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah. And I think the best part too is that if you're gonna put 100% all into like a job, you're kind of going in, doing your shit. Um, Getting affirmations from your managers and like the higher ups feels so good, man. It just feels
Positive,
so good. Dude, positive
reinforcement. Yeah.
reinforcement. It feels so good to hear like those kind of things. There's like you're doing so well. We never well, especially for me, because with my job, I don't know. I don't know what they saw in me, whatever. I think I'm pretty smart. I think I'm like a good dude, but like they would just be like, yeah, we never expected this from you. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but at least I'm like proving them wrong. And then
Yeah.
like they'll be like, yo, we're so happy that, okay, they don't say yo, but they'll be like, we're so happy that we have you. You're doing a fantastic job. But I think that's like what continues to motivate me and continue to drive me to, become better.
I was gonna say, I feel like you can almost use that in any form of your, or any area of your life, right? Like
For
even
real.
just reminding a friend, like, hey, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. That's like reminds them, hey, I'm valued by this person. But
For real.
in the workplace, I feel like by letting someone know, hey, you did a good job, or like, thanks for working on the weekend, or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
that will, like, 2 words, great job, or thank you, like that will motivate me for another week, literally another week, just to
Yeah.
know that, like, someone thinks I'm doing a good job, so better keep at it. Don't die down.
Yeah,
So
for real. Um, Before we continue on, I just want to say shout out to Gabe. He's looking classy. He's out classing me on my own podcast. I thought it was gonna be super chill, but I got the Lakers jersey on because Lakers in
I've
4.
got joggers on here. I've got green pants on.
Oh, it's all right, man. You're still looking good with that Ralph Lauren, you frat boy.
You know what? I feel like I'm talking so much, but I'm in no position to be spreading wisdom. I'm just trying to like share some lived experience. By
No,
no
man.
means
So
telling people how to live their lives.
no, but I think the biggest part of my podcast, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna like kind of rant maybe here, but I
No,
think
go
the
ahead.
biggest part of my podcast is to bring on young, successful individuals like yourself who like has kind of seen the other side of things, maybe even struggling and like those kind of like those obstacles, but be able to share it to individuals who are the younger generation or people even our age to see
Hmm.
like to know that you can also struggle but you can also achieve success. But you spreading wisdom, whatever you're saying, will resonate with a lot of individuals. And me listening to you as well and kind of spreading your story, sharing your story, I have learned lots. And I think that's the biggest thing that we alluded to before, and that was every day you're learning. So I think that's the biggest thing. So don't feel any type of way, speak your mind, man, on this podcast, because I want to like share these stories with everyone.
I think that one of the best parts about doing this, and I think why I was most interested to come on to, aside from just having like a nice conversation with you, is like so often you kind of think through these different things in your head, but to have someone almost like pull them out of you, it's another thing to say them out loud. Like I don't even remember what I said earlier. It was about role models. Like
Yeah.
I
You didn't
never thought
expect
that
it.
through. but I'm
Yeah.
just kind of saying it out loud and answering it. And then it's like, oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And that actually is true as far as my life is concerned.
Uh,
So it's nice
but
to go
Gabe,
through it like that.
also I think too, how it pulls that out of you, you kind of reflect in the moment too. You
Yeah, it's
reflect about
this
those
has
things. I
been
love that
this has been
reflection.
reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Kind of jumping ship now with your busy life, work, school. How do you balance all that? I don't know if I asked you that, but what methods do you use or what techniques do you use to keep yourself down to earth and who you are today?
Google Calendar. Google Calendar is
Productivity apps,
how I'm
productivity apps.
I love Google Calendar. I think it's amazing. But outside of that, I don't know. I think that you kind of owe it to yourself to not burn out. So trying to find different ways to make sure that I'm keeping mentally well. We had this conversation before, but I think that like for me, a huge thing that I used to do, which I can't do anymore these days, is play basketball. I'm not a pro by any means, but I'll show up at a drop-in ball session anywhere
and and give you buckets.
and try to give you as many buckets as possible, or at least give you a lot of effort. So yeah, just finding different ways to kind of decompress, I think, is important. Hanging out with friends, hanging out with family, my girlfriend, and just like having good conversations and experiences with them, I think is important. Yeah, so that's kind of how I keep it all afloat, because you can do all of these different things, and it only works if you leave some time for things that make you happy too. Not to say that
Yeah.
like work and school that won't fulfill you or make you happy in one way, but I think that like you got to fill those gaps with like you time or you time with other people.
Well said. Well said. And I totally agree. I
Yeah.
think my happiness time, I guess, would be, I don't know, kind of being alone, but also kind of staying active and doing things. But with the pandemic, for sure, I guess my
Mm-hmm.
outlet was the gym. And I know for sure for you too, you've talked to me about it from our previous conversations, that the gym would be kind of a big factor as well, and basketball and staying active and staying fit. But just because of the way the life it is now, and like whatever the case may be, it's going to be how long. I don't know how long it's going to be, but we can, I guess, find other ways to decompress.
I watch a ton of movies and stuff these days. I've been binging Survivor with some of my housemates. Found a lot of joy in that. I haven't watched it over the last couple of weeks, but that's it's fun. It's fun. It's a good
True,
time. Little
true,
little things.
true. Little things for sure, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to ask you more questions about those types of questions for sure.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Um, I just want to talk about kind of growing up. Did you take on any job opportunities that intrigued you or kind of put you down the pathway of where you are right now? Because I know you said sports center, but did you take on any other job opportunities that you had when you were kind of a teenager?
Um, I I can speak to some of the different jobs that I did from a young age, but I think that like as far as the work that I do now, or stuff that I'm passionate about, I think that a lot of that came from involvement in school, and like I can point towards high school as being a big proponent to that. I did a lot of plays throughout high school, which I think pulled me out of my shell a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it kind of forces you to speak in front of people and be a little bit more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I did the announcements, so I
You
think
did
that
the
was
announcements?
yeah, I did the announcements, and so
Jeez.
that genuinely, that and plays, having acted in plays and directed plays in high school, which was, it's crazy to think how long ago that was now. That definitely helped. At least for me, make a case when applying to Ryerson, because it's a pretty rigorous process to get into the program. Like you have to send in a portfolio, fill out a supplementary application, and then they bring you in for an interview and an in-person essay. And so I think having that kind of that experience to speak to helped out a lot. But those are like a couple different things that I can think of. As far as work, like I have always worked like from a young age. I worked as a soccer referee way back when. I think I started in grade 7 or 8. It's so
Okay.
funny to think too, because looking back now, when you're in grade 7, grade 8, and when you're in grade 8, you think you're on top of the world, right? You think
Yeah.
you're hot shit.
Going to high school next,
Yeah.
like senior in elementary school.
And then I look back at those photos and I'm a literal child, like a child. And there
Yeah,
I
I
am
feel
at a
that.
soccer field, like telling grown men what's a penalty, what's a foul, what's not a foul,
Oh
giving
man.
yellow cards to children and having their like 45-year-old parents yelling at me,
Yell at your
like
face?
yell at my face. And there I am as a kid. So I don't know. Those kinds of jobs, whatever they may be, I think they just make you more comfortable in the real
Yeah.
world. Camp counselor is like up there as
Yeah.
one of my favorite
I love
jobs
I love
ever.
camp counseling. I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I think part of it is just like getting, like, I remember my campers thought that I was 30 years old when I was like 17. I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't think I look that old. I think it's just like because you're that like authority figure, or because you're responsible for them, they look up to you. And I think that
Yeah.
that's like a big takeaway from that. They look up to you. They're
Yeah.
like, "You make $1 million?" It's like, I wish, man.
Oh, that's so funny, bro. I feel that too because I was like a camp counselor, supervisor, coordinator because I went
Yeah.
through all the roles at Queens, and I feel like the same way you like how you felt because what I think I was in. This is like me older though. I was like I don't know 4th year or something. These kids are like grade 9 or grade 10, and they like truly actually do look up to you. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
are listening. Like I don't know like if you guys are listening to this right now, but shout out to you guys. I loved you guys. You guys were amazing campers. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the job experiences too. I kind of want to touch on it. Um, a lot of job experiences that I did before when I was young, it's kind of helped shape me and mold me into the person I am today. And it's helped me and it's helped contribute to my success, I feel like, because I wouldn't be the person who I am without all the job experiences that I took on when I was young or even through undergrad.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that you say like that you had, grade 9 kids that are a little bit older, because I feel like that's like a perfect age for them to
Yeah.
actually learn something. Like when you're so young, you don't understand. Like I could sit you down and give you like a nice talk about life if I had it in me.
Yeah.
And if you're like 6 or 7 or 10 years old, you don't get that. Like you just want to go
Yeah.
swimming or like
Yeah.
play a game. Yeah, I feel like in grade 9, you at least can hear it a little bit more.
Yeah, for real. And when I did have kids who were like grade 7 or 6, man, they would like run around screaming. I would tell them as a joke. I'd be like, "Yo, go scream or something and go run around screaming." They would scream, and then it would be 5 minutes later. I'm like, "Why are they still doing this?" And then I'd be like, "Go climb a tree." They go climb a tree. It's just like what I was never like this. Like, what happened to like this generation?
I have to save these stories for another time, but being a camp counselor definitely gives you a lot of like amazing stories of just
Memories, bro.
children behaving like children, and
Yeah.
you don't even realize it. But
Oh man.
yeah, some
Um,
poo stories and stuff like that.
yeah, I was gonna ask you a question about the process of getting into Ryerson for that. You kind of touched about the application process. Do you have any tips or ideas or guidance for individuals who are interested in pursuing the program that you're in right now?
Depending on like how far into high school you are, if you're looking towards RT as a program, I'd say the biggest thing is like get involved. And I say that for a couple reasons. Like one is to have something to use on your application, or to kind of point towards as experience that you've had. Another part of it is just like you're going to benefit from trying to do something new, no matter
Sure.
what, whether it's like working with other people on, your photo video team within your high school, or like I said, doing something like the announcements, or theater or plays and stuff like that. I feel like that would definitely sort of give the university an idea of like what you're interested in, and that
Yeah.
it also shows that you're able to work with other people, because um, my program at Ryerson, there are like exams and stuff like that, but I'd say the majority of the summative sort of assignments are group projects, and a lot of them
Okay.
happen like they're in person, whether you're sort of producing something together, whether it's like a radio show or uh, a short like single camera, multi-camera production, something like that. That never happens like with one person alone. You need like a team of people, and you need to be able to work with others, which I think translate well to the workplace after school too. But I think that you'll find a lot of that in the program. So I think just putting yourself out there a little bit and working with others will definitely help.
True. True. So you doing these undergrad studies and you being the media manager for John Tory, I want you to be real here with me. What kind of tips and advice would you give a person like myself who's starting a podcast to kind of increase awareness, marketing strategies? I don't know if that's in your down your avenue, but how can I guess, raise awareness to like my podcast so people know about this, and how can I increase my production?
And the biggest thing is to keep doing it, right? Like if people will come across your page from one reason or another, if it's someone else putting it on their story and they kind of click through to see that you have done it and it's like experienced, it kind of holds a little bit more weight than if it was like one post you've done it one time and here I am clicking and like maybe I'll go listen to this first podcast because that person seems interesting, or maybe I'm only checking it to see if it's like legit. So I'd say that's one thing. So it's great that you're pumping these out as often as you are, because I think you said you're doing like a couple a week, right? Keeping up or as much as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, I was. So basically, what's happening now, and I totally agree with what you're saying, comes with experience, and I feel more comfortable in front of the mic right now, just being transparent to my listeners and viewers. But I was doing them a couple a week, but now I'm just pumping out one on
Mm-hmm.
Wednesdays every week. But I am still in the background scheduling these podcasts with you, other individuals during the week. So I still maybe have 3 or 4 podcasts on top of me working full time still. So still making those gains, honestly. But
It's
honestly, why
huge. It keeps you
it's huge,
busy.
man. It keeps you
Yeah.
busy, and I think it's just being consistent, honestly.
And I was saying this is something that we talked about earlier too, but I think that like to have these conversations cataloged as something that you can look back on, it
Yes.
brings more value than like if this were to make you money, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is the value of doing something like this, to be able to look back
Facts.
and be like, hey, I had a great conversation with someone
Yeah.
and shared some wisdom. If someone listening took a thing or two from it, then all the better, right?
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing too. I think I talked to you about this before too, but I'm not looking to make money. I don't really
Yeah.
care for that. Sure, if it comes, sure. I have no high hopes for it, but I just want to do what you just said: spread the stories, share the stories. I've talked about this before. Let people let individuals listen to this podcast and be able to take away lessons that they may be able to translate into their real life. Honestly, I just want to do good for this world, contribute good to this world. It's like a lot of people are so caught up in money and like chasing that. Sure, like I am too, but at the end of the day, I just want to do good for this world, honestly.
Well, this is a good way, right?
Yeah.
Share different conversations, different opinions, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and having good guests like you on, bro.
Thank you. Thank you. I told you I'm happy to be here because it's been good for me to kind of beat out some of these thoughts that, you think in your head once or twice, but to say them out loud, I think helps put them all together and make them
Yeah,
real.
yeah, for sure. So I don't know if I'm missing anything, honestly. I kind of just want to jump into the fun segment of the podcast. So I think I've covered all my bases with you, all the thoughts and questions I had kind of leading up to this. We wrapped up kind of the segment based on Gabe's professional experiences and his education and some wisdom he had for you guys. I think I spread some wisdom too. So this is for the fun part of the podcast. I always end the podcast with some good questions, I think, that are super interesting. But first, I'm just going to ask you, I guess you talked about TV shows. What TV shows are you watching other TV shows that you're watching other than Survivor?
So I just a couple nights ago started Your Honor, if you've ever heard of that one. It's
No.
with Bryan Cranston. He was Heisenberg from Breaking Bad.
Okay.
So that's one of the most recent ones that I'm watching. I have been watching The Crown with my girlfriend, which I was told was like an old parent show to watch, but I've loved it. I think it's a great show. I've only seen the first 2 seasons, but wow. I think it's just very well written. It's slow. There's like nothing crazy exciting about the show. You just have to appreciate it for like what it is, which is just it's drama. It's like
True.
a soap opera, but not jokes. Like it's not, yeah.
True.
Um, yeah. So I've been
Yeah.
watching that.
So sorry. Go ahead. Anything else?
What did I watch? Queen's Gambit recently, which was really
Everyone's
good.
watched it, bro.
Everyone's watched it, and like me and my roommate started to play a little bit of chess after watching it. and I'm terrible at chess, and they're not bad at all. So I haven't won a game. I tied one, but I've lost all the others. So the show didn't make me any better at chess, but I wasn't good to begin with.
True. I feel like so many people have talked about that show. I don't really watch TV honestly at all. I
Yeah,
guess the only time I watched TV was back in the day.
yeah.
But I guess it's a good time to kind of relax and chill.
Sports. If there's anything that I watch on TV
Sports.
that like would consume most of my screen time, it's probably sports.
True. So that leads me to my next question. What's your favorite sport or growing? Yeah, sure. What's your favorite sport? That's the first question.
It pains me to say that it's not hockey because, like I said, I grew up huge Luongo fan. I'm a goalie, so if anybody listening to this needs a goalie at some point in their life, hit me up. It's always like a nice plug to add in there. But yeah, I grew up loving hockey, like diehard Canucks fan. And I was like, I like to think I was pretty good. But
You're
so I played it.
zero goals against average, right?
Yeah, I wish. I wish there were some bad years in between. Yeah, so hockey is my favorite sport growing up for sure. But then early on, like into university, I started to watch the NBA and watch basketball. And then I started to play basketball like very late in my life, but I got so hooked by the culture of it and just like the game itself. I say this to friends, but I think that the biggest reason why I fell in love with basketball, which is to answer the question, which is basketball is definitely my favorite sport. The
Okay.
biggest reason why I love basketball over hockey for like myself is because when I played hockey, the whole objective of me being on the ice was to not let people score. Like it was all defense, right? I never had the puck to go score a goal, right?
Yeah.
So my whole purpose was to stop goals. Whereas in basketball, you get that feeling of putting the ball through the net and being like the offense. So it's like the completely opposite side of the spectrum. And I think that like basketball, you score a lot more than you do in hockey. So there's just like that instant reward of like getting a bucket, like
Yeah.
for real. So I think that that's like why I fell in love with it. And then I just think like as far as the NBA is concerned, like they are just such a great sport right now.
So amazing,
Basketball,
bro.
so entertaining. I thought the bubble was incredible. You
Yeah.
know, I heard that like viewership was down, but I think like the games that you got out of it, they were
Dude,
close games. They were
they're
hype,
insane.
exciting
They're
games. Yeah,
insane, bro.
yeah.
I can relate
So
to you too, Gabe. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
so my favorite sport growing up was soccer, and I
Mm,
was a center fullback. I was a center fullback, and basically never had the luxury to like take the ball, run all the way up, and score a goal.
yeah,
So, and I
pass
love
first
soccer.
player.
Yeah, I passed first. I know all I did was defend, slide tackle the shit out of people. But as soon as I broke my ankle twice in 2 years, I was like, okay, this ain't it. So started
Yeah,
working out and then started playing basketball with the boys. I also played basketball in high school too. I was also like I played basketball on the junior team. And then honestly, like with the NBA and the rising stars, that literally like I was so intrigued with kind of the NBA and how it was handled, like the athletes in the NBA as well, like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, RIP, RIP.
R.I.P. Kobe. Yeah,
But yeah, like I know that feeling as well as like putting the like putting the ball in the hoop. You're just like, damn, that's
yeah.
sexy.
And it's funny because when I first started to play basketball, which is in 2017, so not long ago at all, and not to say that like I'm incredible, but I think that I'm like definitely competent and can win. But when I started and I was playing with some of my friends, and the good thing was some of the friends that I first started to play with, we were all starting out together, so we were all trash together. Like would show up there, lose every single time. Some people
Runs.
just didn't want to play with us because they were like, man, this is like an easy win. Just get it over with. And then the other part of like loving it is like the more time you put in, you go to the gym by yourself, you practice your shot, then you slowly add in a dribble, you learn how to move with the ball. Like then you get to add those things to your game in an actual like game and see them work. Like you can see your own growth.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that sounds so cheesy, but that's what I love the most about basketball for me. I just wish I could play. I wish I could play.
Yeah, and I think it's all about kind of personal growth too. If you recognize it, that means a lot to yourself. Like
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
putting the ball in the net, you're doing a crossover, it's becoming more efficient and all that stuff. Yeah, like that's all that matters. Who cares what others think? You know what I mean?
It's funny. It's funny because I am not like the typical package of what you'd expect a basketball player to look like. Not tall, not like lanky. Definitely can't dunk. I can dunk in my head, but not in real life. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that like it's one of those things where you really can just pick up a basketball, go to a park by yourself. Like it's so hard for hockey to have ice to go
Easy. Yeah.
practice and like someone to go shoot on you.
Right.
So like you can genuinely put in a little bit of time, get some exercise, and get better at the same time. So I love that about it. It's accessible. It's definitely
I love it
accessible.
too. Before we jump into the next question, have you ever crossed anyone up?
Never made someone fall over, I don't think, but uh, cross somebody over, maybe. Hit some game
Uh,
winners, maybe. Definitely.
Damn,
Yeah.
this guy's good. Yo, we need to get some runs in this summer if
We
pandemic's not here.
we 100% do if we can get in a gym.
With our boy,
Um,
dude,
yeah, yeah,
Johnny Buckets, dude, that guy's so good.
yeah. He's really good. He is really
He's so
good.
good, bro. So that
We
leads
played a
me to
lot this summer.
yeah. Yo, I would always see
We lived
snaps of you
together, right?
boys. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I'd always see snaps of you boys, kind of just hooping.
It's nice. You know, it's crazy, but we have the neighbors next to us in my house downtown right now. They have a basketball net out in the street. And so, no lie, at the end of the workday, me and my roommates will go out there and just shoot around sometimes.
That's sick. That's sick. That's
Just
dope.
because it's like there. We've asked the neighbor, he's like totally cool with it. And how nice is it to just have that? It's like it reminds me of like playing road hockey in my driveway way back in the day.
True. I had that luxury home, back in
Hmm.
hometown because we have a basketball net. So it was sick to kind of just go outside, lower the net, dunk, do windmills.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that leads me to say, so since the NBA is your favorite sport right now, who's your team?
So I should say my favorite player in the NBA, and this is controversial for any basketball fans that might be
Wait,
listening.
player or team?
My favorite player. So
All right, all right.
I have to say player first
Oh,
because
because you're a bandwagon guy like me.
not a bandwagon. I'll say go Raptors go, but like my favorite player is Russell Westbrook,
I
and
love it.
I
Okay.
I love Russell Westbrook. I just think that like his energy, his effort is 12 out of 10. And you know, people say he's not clutch. People say he's not
He's
championship
Brick,
material.
He's Westbrook, they
I
say.
say I would pay all the money in the world to see that guy play because he's going to give me every dollar's worth on the court.
Yeah,
You know,
facts.
he's not going to show out there, load manage, any of that. If he's healthy, he's going to be out there and he's going to be hustling. So love Russell Westbrook. So it's a big OKC fan. Like I said, I got into basketball a little bit later in life. And I fell in love with OKC because I thought Russell Westbrook was incredible. Obviously, he doesn't play there anymore, so I was a little bit of a Houston fan last year. Again, I'm rooting for the guy, not so much the team.
I like
Um,
that.
but Toronto fan for sure. This year,
True.
a little bit more quietly, but
And
it
they're
was nice to
so
get to see them win a championship. That's for sure.
no, that was amazing. So
Yeah.
like I was super happy to see that, honestly. And I think that's like before I moved here in Toronto. But I'm kind of like you too. So my favorite player, LeBron James. I have other favorite players as well, but definitely a LeBron fan. So anywhere he went, I was kind of just always rooting for that man's.
Hmm.
And just him being a Laker now, and him like bringing in chip with Anthony Davis and like that whole squad, that was like special to see. But for sure, go Raptors. But they're kind of just shitting the bed right now, and them saying Siakam was gonna be the franchise player, definitely not. Like you got to stop those spin moves, bro, before you take a last second shot. Honestly,
I agree. And you know what? I have hope that they can do better at some point this season, but like I don't blame them. Like you look at the roster, losing Gasol and losing Ibaka, it
that's a
does a lot
lot.
to a team. Like it
Yeah.
does like to not have any competent or like strong big men in the paint. Like
Yes.
Aaron Baines and Alex Len aren't going to do it. I think Chris Boucher is awesome, but he's not the center. Like he's
No,
not the
he's
center
not.
because if he matches up with even Dwight Howard, he'll shove like
He's
he's just
done,
not
bro.
strong
He's too.
enough, you know.
Yeah.
But he can hit the threes. He can hit the threes, and I don't know. I think that maybe they can move some guys around.
Man, they're gonna be a lottery team this year.
Yeah,
No
maybe.
cap. No
Maybe.
cap.
Yeah.
putting money on it right now.
I wonder at what point does like the Raptors leadership just say, all right, we got to tank.
Rebuild?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, rebuild.
Rebuild. Yeah, rebuild is one thing. And then
But
like
tank.
tank is another.
Like OKC, like OKC.
Listen, Russell Westbrook may not be there, but in a couple years, when Oklahoma
Okay.
City has like the first round picks from like 2021, 22, 23, 24.
That's crazy, bro. It's like so crazy, man.
Yeah. And you know what? You know what's crazy to me? It's so early in the season to say this, but Oklahoma City has done well this year. I think
They've done, dude, they're good. Like Shea Gilchrist or whatever his name is, Canadian boy. Shout out to him. Like he's balling. Like they have so many pieces. Collison's on that team, right?
I don't think so.
No, not Collison. What's his name?
Roberson?
European guy. Danilo Gallinari.
Oh, Gallinari. He's on the Hawks now. And he's injured. I watched them play yesterday against who did they play against yesterday? The Spurs. And it's just like, no offense to them, it's a bunch of scrubs. Like Mike Muscala's on that team. There's this other guy, I can't even pronounce his last name.
Like on the Spurs?
No, on OKC. Like,
oh, true.
They don't even have Steven Adams anymore. I can't believe
sad.
that they've done as well as they. I can't believe that they're doing better than the Raptors are.
Yeah. So with that all being said, do you have any other upcoming players that you kind of follow in the NBA?
Trying to think. I like John Morant because he gives me flashbacks of young Russell Westbrook. I think he can be great. I think Luka Doncic is going to be, a force to be reckoned with at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that Dallas isn't doing as well. I listen to like a lot of the podcasts and the ESPN videos on YouTube and stuff like that. And I heard them say that Steven Silas was Dallas's offensive coordinator for last year, and he's now coaching the Rockets. And Dallas has struggled a little bit this year. I know Porzingis isn't there, but they've struggled a little bit. But I think that Luka Doncic is going to be like, you say your favorite player was LeBron James, right? It's so crazy to think that like
triple double
10 years from now, we're going to have to look back on that and be like, who's next up? Maybe Giannis. I don't know. Giannis is missing. He's missing the shot.
Dude, okay. I just do not like Giannis. Okay, I like Giannis, but the way he plays like the game is basically not the way to win a championship. Like all he does is like drive the paint, dunk, do whatever he does. Sure, like you're a force to be reckoned with, but when teams have time to kind of like
figure it out,
game plan to like stop you, like the Heat did 2 years in a row. Like you're like you have to rely on a jump shot, bro. Like you can't continue to keep on driving.
It's also like you need someone, to be able to like bring the ball up. Like bring the ball up, make a move, find your space. Yeah, Drew can do it, but like I want the franchise player to do it.
Oh, okay. Chris Middleton.
Like in that setting, LeBron is taking the shot.
Yes.
Right? The Kevin Durant is taking that shot, or the whoever it might be.
Yeah, but that mother effer can't hit that shot.
Who's that? Giannis?
No, I was kind of like mocking Kyrie. Kyrie being like, "Yeah, first time in my career I have that mother effer that can, hit that shot."
Yeah, and then they missed both of those.
Yeah, that was dark. But yeah, no, with Giannis for sure. Like, I totally agree. He just has to be that like dominant force. He just has to continue working on his jump shot for sure.
Yeah, and then I don't know. Maybe they just need a little bit more pieces, but I think they're a better team than last year with Drew Holiday there. But we'll see.
I think so too. We're talking a lot about NBA, but I asked Johnny Plunger this too. So I want to know who your GOAT is in this generation. We're not going to talk. Oh wait, actually, yeah. Let's talk about MJ, Kobe, and LeBron. Who do you think the GOAT is?
Okay, I had this conversation actually in one of my classes of all places because it was a sports journalism course.
Okay.
This is again maybe a cop-out answer, and because you're a LeBron fan, maybe you will agree and not disagree. But I think we just have to appreciate them for who they are in their own era. Like the comparison is one thing, but if you're going to compare them on championships, that's like one thing. If you're going to compare them on stats, you have to give it to LeBron because he's played longer and like he's going to.
I agree with that.
MJ in all of the categories. And then also like it's a completely different game now than it was when Michael Jordan was playing. So it's like, how can you say? And if you say throw them, into a one-on-one game, I don't know. LeBron's a big man.
What do you think?
LeBron is a big man. I'm sure he would give Michael Jordan a hard time.
Yeah. And that's not a cop-out answer. I totally agree. In terms of championships, I do think that a lot of sports analysts will say, hey, like he won 6 championships, Kobe won 5, LeBron won 4. Like he's not the GOAT. In terms of basketball IQ, and all of them have amazing basketball IQ, but the best all-around player, I have to give to LeBron. The best winner, MJ and Kobe, honestly, for sure.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, LeBron's career's not over. And
it's not over.
If you're the Skip Bayless of the world, maybe you're
Rob Parker too.
Yeah, you're harping on LeBron for getting to the finals so many times but not winning. But think about what it takes to get to the finals. How many players get all the way there, or how many players just have like great regular season careers and then never like bring it all the way? Maybe you don't win in the finals, but to get there, I think to get there, like however many times it was, 8 years in a row. Maybe it was
8 years in a row. I think it's like 10 in total.
And 10 in total. Like that's crazy. In a 16, 17 year career, that's
more
crazy.
than half. That's crazy, bro.
That's
and
crazy.
People need to understand that. Like he literally defines greatness. Sure, he is like 4 and 6 in the finals, but what it takes, mental health, like that's a big thing, man. Like people need to understand that. Like that literally takes such a toll on you mentally and physically, obviously. But yeah.
You say the mental side of it, and I often think about that. Like I think about the fact that, you watch them on your TV in different countries around the world, and you think that they're just like these glorified people, which in many ways they are, because they're like a celebrity of sorts, but they're human beings. And like, I don't think any human being would like to lose. And to go to the finals, get all the way there, spend your entire year building up towards that just to lose, that's heartbreaking. But then to have the mental durability to go back in the next year and like play through the entire season just to like have a chance to get back there. And like the mental game is one side, but you have to be skilled enough to actually get there. That's a whole nother part.
Yeah. And I totally agree with what you're saying as well, because with the critics and the analysts who harp on him too, that's like another side of things for LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
But I never grew up watching MJ. I was too young, but I do appreciate his greatness, and like I've seen clips, but I do truly appreciate like our era, I guess, LeBron and Kobe, and just like what they've done for the game, and just like honestly RIP to Kobe. I was watching old videos of him and like actually just started tearing up, just like it's just sad, man. Just like such a young life, such a young, successful, inspirational dude who really had things going for him. He won an Oscar, I'm pretty sure, and then his daughter as well. It's just sad, and like me just speaking about it now and reflecting on it, just brings kind of like tears to my eyes, because he's such a great dude.
Mm-hmm.
And just like it's taken away from him.
It goes back to like what we were saying earlier about like the Michael Jordan LeBron debate. Like don't compare them. Just appreciate them just for what they are. Because one day he's not going to be playing anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe he's an owner or a coach or something, but like you only get this time now to watch them. So appreciate it, because anything could happen.
For real. So you're a baller, I guess. What kind of shoes do you wear?
Oh man, see that's like feeding into a little addiction of mine.
Sneakerhead.
You know what? I don't want to call myself a sneakerhead, because I don't have like a sneakerhead would look at my shoe collection and be like, nice, you got the ball shoes on sale from Sport Check. But for real, I don't like spend crazy amounts of money on ball shoes for like the special colorways or
True.
The Travis Scott edition, but I do have like a pretty hefty 1, 2, 3, 4. I have like 7 or 8 basketball shoes.
That's sick.
Yeah, so I've got it's crazy, because some of my least favorite players are who I have the most shoes of. So the KDs,
Russell.
I have one pair of Russell Westbrook's, and he's Jordan brand, so they're the Why Not 02s. I have
Hi, Alyssa.
One pair of those. I've got 2 pair of KDs, which are easily the best shoes that I own.
Wait, which KDs?
The KD, I can show them to you.
Oh,
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. Fine. Why not? Why not? I'll show
Why
you.
not for the viewers, bro? Are they the fives?
These are my favorite KD shoes, like by
What are
far.
those? Sixes? Sevens?
Fives.
Damn.
Yeah. They're easily the most comfortable, and then I have a pair of the sixes in black and red, which I have yet to wear, like on the
Dead
court
stock.
or in a gym. Yeah, they're just in the box right now collecting dust. Then I
Sure.
have, I might say that my favorite pair are the LeBrons, which I have, but I have not worn them in the gym yet.
True. I used to be a sneaker collector, I guess, because when I
Okay.
played basketball, I had KD fives, I had LeBron tens, LeBron 9 Christmases. Like I loved collecting shoes, but I ended up just wearing Jordans anyways
Hmm.
because I just collected them. I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna wear them for fashion because like I can't pull them off, so I'm just gonna wear them for basketball anyways.
That's me, man. Like I have these shoes, but they will not be worn outside of a basketball court, like an indoor court too. I'm not wearing them
Yeah,
outside.
yeah,
And
facts.
on top of that, like I don't know, the way that I dress, like my style, if you will, it doesn't work with like basketball sneakers and crazy colors.
Man, I agree with me too. Like I would never wear a pair of basketball shoes out, even if they're
Yeah,
like nice Jordans. The only ones I would wear would probably be Jordan ones. But um, this has been a great conversation. So I just want to ask you another question. Who's your
sure.
who are you listening to right now? Your artist.
Artist wise, oh man, it's crazy. I you have to link to my Spotify or something because I'm a big playlist guy.
All right, I'm a big
Um,
playlist guy too, for sure. But tell me kind of like top five or whoever you're listening to on the daily.
Okay, this is controversial, but I'm a big Kanye West fan. I don't know that I listen to him on the daily, but I think as
Big
far as
Ye
music
fan.
is concerned, like, yeah, Kanye is incredible. I also
Uh,
went to his show in Toronto way back when, the St. Pablo tour. It
okay, true.
was, yeah, it was one of the best live performances I've ever seen. Despite all the controversy around him, I think he's a very talented artist and producer, and so yeah, Kanye's great. It's so hard to say because like depending on the mood, depending on the day, I'm listening to something different. Like over the last year or so, I'd say I got into like no, I don't want to say British grime music, but like British hip hop. Um, so I don't know, Dave. I'm pretty big into if you've heard of Dave. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I
Yeah,
listen to
true.
sometimes I go back and listen to old playlists that I've made and I'm like listening to music I listened to in high school or listened to in like the early years of university, but I definitely won't rule anyone else. Like I had a Beatles phase too, where I was just like listening to the Beatles a bunch and I was like, wow, it's crazy that my dad grew up with this and here I am now just listening to it on Spotify.
It's crazy how like this music world works though.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with kind of like how phases come. You're either sad, you can be listening to sad music, and you're
Yeah.
like, or like you're having an upbeat day, you're listening to like hip hop or like kind of
Something hype.
the,
Yeah.
yeah, the old or even the oldies. I find that the oldies are good too.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a little bit of everything. Like I had an
True,
indie phase too, so I've got like yeah. I don't know. It's it's such a hard question to answer. It's
true,
such a hard because I just look at my phone and I'm like I don't even know who I'm listening to these days. Who am I listening to?
true. I guess it's just easier for some people because they're just like on the grind with this one person. Like for me, it'd be Juice World, the Kid Leroy. I guess I guess those two. I guess.
Yeah, those are your.
um, yeah, those two. But I do appreciate like Kanye West though, and even with all the controversy, I do think he's an amazing artist from his earlier albums. Man, like
They
808s and
just
Heartbreaks,
they
My Beautiful Dark
resonate.
Fantasy. Dude, they're so good.
You know what it is for me? It's like I said,
College
I
Dropout.
have different like playlists or music that take me back to like certain periods of my life or different moods. And I can think of like a Kanye song from each of those like
Really?
eras. Like
Graduation too?
graduation was great. I don't know. It's I'm a
Okay, how about
quiet Kanye
Gabe? How about
fan these
this?
days.
Well, Gabe, how about this then? Yeah, I am too. But Gabe, how about this then? What's your favorite Kanye album? Pick one. Come on.
My dark, beautiful, twisted fantasy.
So good, bro. I would say that's my first, and then I would say second's graduation.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it's so good. Um, but yeah, I guess I just want to wrap it up. I think this is a great conversation with Gabe. Gabe, I just want to thank you so much, man, for coming on the podcast. Talk about your job experiences, I guess your professional experiences with John Tory, your new experience now, and then your education, as well as us kind of shooting the shit about the NBA and music as well. So thank you again, man. It's been super. It's been a great time. I learned lots from you, and like we said, we learned a lot of things from other people. So
Yeah, it's been great, man. Thank you for having me. It's been nice to chat. It's crazy how quickly the time flew by, and it's been a great
yeah,
conversation.
no, for real, dude. And I just want to thank you again, and keep doing like what you're doing and being who you are, man. You're like one of the unique friends that I have in terms of just being there to listen to someone, and yeah, just keep spreading wisdom, brother.
Thank you. I know we were saying earlier, like it's crazy to think that like some people might listen to this and take something from it because I'm definitely not trying to throw wisdom at people, but if someone takes something from it, hopefully they do, then all the better, right?
Yeah. I hope everyone takes care.